on the Earth, and in fact extends underneath the Atlantic Ocean, and is actually connected to parts of Scotland. That's all part of the same plain and or ridge system. And then in between the major one, the Rockies, and the more worn down and what's that called? Worn down erosion, the more eroded Appalachian. In between, in the middle of the country, there's the Ozarks, which are the least known, but some of the, again, biologically diverse areas.
So very different landscape in your country.
You've got some very unique landscape in your own. I've seen some videos and tours and paintings of those domes and cave systems. It's quite amazing. It's astonishing to me. I guess maybe in the southwest portion of the country. Yours is so much a diverse land with so many languages. I'd like to visit your land, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Many countries.
Yes. What a wonderful world.
Joro, you like tiger?
Yes,
tiger.
I have a big cat.
Hiro, you're leopard. It's actually a leopard. Tigers have stripes. Leopards have spots.
I have a
but Hiro is currently muted.
I have a cheetah.
Cheetah.
There it is. Ooh, echo. Hello.
You're good now, hopefully.
A little bit of echo.
So do we have a whole list of topics this morning, or what?
From whence? From whence?
Let's drop the from. Whence?
From whence do lights come? Is that it?
Whence do rights come? Where whence is a combination of when and where from. We thought that might be interesting, but I don't know. Let's see what Anna thinks. Does that sound like it's something that would interest you or disinterest you? A discussion on the origin of rights.
So usually we talk about some physical topic, right? In this meeting, our talking topic.
Our topic might be from whence do rights come, or it might be something else. Or it could be a series of topics.
Oh.
Just a warning.
Okay.
These things have gone as long as 6 hours. What has been your shortest, Hiro, so far?
Today's will be the shortest.
I guess you have an appointment.
Because I canceled the subscription to infinite amount of recording, and now, because it was 100 and something a year, and now that I don't have the capability to record, I'm recording using Xsplit. 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 Let's see.
Here's the zoom.
Here's the zoom.
Over here,
And then
the
over
recording
here is
with
the
this
recording
program called
with this program called
Xsplit. I hit the record button
Xsplit.
here.
I hit the record button
It's
here.
recording this window.
And so it's recording this window.
Okay, we don't have your screen share is on, so we don't know all those back end details specifically besides the name,
That cheetah's still in the way.
and that's okay. We should probably also verify on that Cairo records these sessions. So you're recording using XSplit as opposed to the Zoom share.
The zoom.
Oh, here is the zoom.
And over here is Xsplit, showing what's being recorded. And I hit the record button.
It's being
Right there.
record button.
And it's recording it in MP4
In
So that's important to understand.
on my computer.
Cairo uses these discussions as the basis for a podcast that he publishes, and also the discussions
Where thousands of visitors will listen to it and laugh at.
that's really ambitious or upbeat.
Well, I'm the main visitor. I visit 1,000 times.
It can be useful because you can go back later and think, wow, that's what I was thinking back then.
Yes. Since July of last year, probably. So it's been around for a year almost, I guess. So I have plenty to laugh about.
So the question on the table is, you have discussion of rights, and if we're going to have a discussion of rights, I would propose that we would lead off with the right to privacy, and whether or not there is a value in it.
Yes. Someone's knocking at the door. Someone's ringing the bell. Do me a favor. Open the door. And let him in. Let's see. I thought I heard someone knocking at the door.
Just so you know, Hyro, maybe it's the XSplit software, or it could be something else.
I heard a ding ding. Ding ding.
You have an echo?
Yes.
And also other people's voices are coming up and echoing through your sound system. So you may want to switch to your Bluetooth so that the speakers are picked up and creating feedback for your mic.
Bluetooth. Here's my Bluetooth. They're probably dead. Let's see. Where's the other Bluetooth?
This is my mother in the back. My wife's.
Here it is. Here's my other Bluetooth in the Bluetooth case.
So I want this to remain interesting and profitable for you, so how did you find the group? I guess out of curiosity. Okay. And what is it about the meetup that's what attracted you to click on the link? What about the description? Great. Excellent. Second major. This is great. Might we know what your first major was? Excellent. See the cost of this.
not much time. I do. I cut a lot of time to eating. So most of the time I'm eating now.
And you teach. Are you teaching finance or some other time?
I teach, yes. In fact, sometimes I teach the Chinese philosophy.
So
Oh,
primarily along the Confucian lines, or Taoism, or something else.
Yes, like eating and Taoism philosophy.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I Ching, which, yeah,
Eating, you know
local
eating.
cycles.
Yes, eating. Yes.
hmm.
What other?
Hearing your background, it makes it very relevant. The idea that that the I Ching, there's several parallels between that and financial analysis.
This teaching? Oh.
This is wonderful.
Yes, you are very clever. you are so clever. I combine these two things in fact. Oh, great! You have this book. Do you like this book? Yes.
Yes,
Good.
the Yi Jing Book of Changes. This one was translated by James Legge, or Legge, Legge. So there's many translations. Which one is the definitive? I guess the leaving it untranslated is the best. And read it in Chinese. So I have to learn Chinese.
Well, Iroh's been on that path for several years now. You've got the diphthongs down, right?
Yes, the tones, like they put diphthongs on top of the letters, and there's 4 tones in Mandarin. Mandarin? Is that what you speak in Mandarin?
Yes.
I keep hearing a knocking on the door. Hmm. I don't see a way to allow them to come in. Let's see.
So how many years have you learned eating?
I was introduced my first semester of college back in 1995. But I'm no expert.
Long time.
Hmm.
So what is your major or job?
So my combined major, it was a lot of humanities, some philosophy, mythology, religion, physics, maths. I was very much a generalist, and I went on to rise off.
Oh, very great. So you combine the philosophy and the science, right?
Science is an extension of philosophy, yes, at least in the Western tradition.
Yes, I'm very interested too. I'm very interested to say too. Science, philosophy. Sometimes I read the physical book too. The eating is also connected with the science. So what's your job now?
Right now, I'm actually just a caregiver, which is probably the most important job I've ever done, because I have a 7-year-old son who's on the autistic spectrum.
Oh, you maybe you both retire. You and Joro.
Essentially.
Both retire.
I think that's fair to say.
I'm sometimes a caregiver for my mother.
Right.
Oh,
Well, it's more like we're doing this for a season. Bolin wrote a book called The Three Boxes of Life, where he described life being primarily as being describable in three boxes. Those boxes are the box of preparation, where we're schooling, the box of being something like a lion, which I think is borrowing, I may be borrowing from Nietzsche a bit there, but where you're going out, you're making the kingdom, so to say, and then the box of the camel, where you're taking the knowledge and the good from the past and you're carrying it forward into the future. We're probably acting as camels, but then we're also trying to be part-time lions and part-time infants, where we're learning to.
yes. We can learn all line, almost retired too.
Yeah. And then there's that concept of forced retirement.
But it's okay. That should be free, freedom. The job not necessary, I think.
Well, thanks to our level of thanks to the sophistication of the level of the development of our civilization.
In the old ancient time, I think most of people have no job. In the countryside cities.
Yes. We have a person from 19th century America, from Massachusetts, who, when it came down to it, when he left civilization, sort of like a lousy from his era, and over on this continent, when he applied himself, he found that he only really had to work 6 weeks out of the year, and then he would have the whole rest of his time to leisure. And the key to that was not having to pay rent.
Yes. So, there are a thought is FIRE. Do you know what that means? Fire?
You mean where the RE is real estate, finance, insurance, real estate, fire? I have to admit, I don't know what it is you're referring to.
Financial independent and retire earlier.
Okay, financially independent, retire earlier.
FIRE.
It's a nice acronym.
Yes. This thought is very popular in the world.
Hello, welcome, Andy and Dominic. Dominic joins us, I believe, from Toronto, Canada. Yes. Which is up on the other side of the Great Lakes in the North American continent. Don is joining us from Asia.
There we go. Welcome, Candy Lee.
Good morning.
Good morning, Candy Lee.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Where are you joining us from?
I'm from Sarasota, Florida.
Okay.
Oh, beautiful.
The southwest coast,
very pristine. They're very soft. I guess they said the quartz came in from somewhere and landed in Florida. Really, that's what they said. So, I forget how it is, but the sand came in somewhere in Siesta Key. That's very, very soft and it's not hot. It's very fine.
Nice. So that would that an opposite sort of beach than like up Lake Lido, which is just north of our space center.
Oh.
On the opposite east coast, which is made of coarse shells that can get inside of your swimsuit and cause all sorts of pain.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, it's different. It's very nice.
Oh my gosh. My meeting will end in 10 minutes.
All right, everyone, we better make it go.
No, but no, don't go away. It'll end, but then I'll start it again, and then you can join back. Cause I got a free account, and so it only lasts 40 minutes or so.
Software enforced intermissions.
Oh, so we'll have a intermission where we can join it back after a few minutes.
He decided he didn't want to pay Zoom any further. He's had this premium account for a year, so he's jumped to a free piece of software that only forwards for 40 minutes at a time. And welcome, Mike. Mike has been in Central Florida since 1951. He's a retired maths professor from
Expired?
was it 30 years? You talked at what's the second largest university here in the United States,
Wow.
at least nowadays.
Well, when I started, we had 1,500 students, which makes it one of the smallest.
Wow.
Yeah, we've been
You grew.
in Florida over his time here.
Now, Hiro, if we join back, when you restart the meeting, what kind of drinks and entertainment do you have for us?
I'm making tea.
Oh, good.
It's oolong tea.
All right.
All right.
Can you sneak a little rum in?
Sure, why not?
Okay.
I cannot drink oolong. That's not a good my system.
Oh.
But you remind me of all the rum money that used to go up and down the East Coast. Oh my goodness, the stories and the history there. But I'm going to give it a good one. The good one is we used to work for the largest small and medium-sized business serving companies and hosting their websites around the turn of the millennium. And one day someone was so impressed with the level of support that we were able to revive them. They wanted to reward the agent in some way. And I'm not sure who came up with the idea. It could have been the client herself. But they mailed us a rum cake.
Oh, nice.
And oh my goodness, was that thing strong. And
Oh,
we had
yeah.
it in the break room. And then we went back to work having had it. It's like shots at work.
I've had rum cake before. Jamaican rum cake.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So, I don't know if we're going to do an open discussion or if we're going to do. I proposed a topic to Cairo last night, which was essentially whence do rights come?
What?
Where, when, and how do the idea of rights come about? Like, what is their evolution? What is their origin? And when did they come in play? When might they disappear? That classic question. But that doesn't necessarily have to be the topic for this morning. It's just something that I toss out there to see if not people were interested in discussing.
We have
We had
we have the right to vote on it, don't we? Right? Votes.
No, I think Rami is going to impose it.
I don't think so. I'm not that kind of person.
I think his position as, being in possession of the truth and an aristocrat.
By nature, the longest beard. Is that what you're saying?
Can I go along with an input of rights both externally and private and public? There's two
Okay.
variations of rights. And mine.
And you're proposing of it. Go ahead.
When you share something openly with other people, that's a public display. So voting, how one thinks about it in his own world, public, private, is a right. So how do I put it? Same place where will comes from. So it's some people might call it data, you can call it information, you can call it the unknown. There's a right to share information, for example. That's somebody else. They can constrict it, by saying, freedom of speech, for example. So if I'm sharing with other people, that would again that's a public. So now you can perceive it as rights. I'm trying to share this, but I realize when you share it openly, without understanding how rights come to be, like, because you're trying to pose it, that's just a thought. For me, that's just a thought. And there's conditioning in that thought. So my parents tell me certain things are right and wrong, favorable and unfavorable. That's, I can use many words to describe it. But once I hear it externally, then I go internally with it.
Right. Yeah. So one thing that you brought up is the overlap between your right meaning almost the good. There's also the meaning of right meaning a direction, which I mentioned for you is that way, but this way. And then there's also the idea of right being a bundle of allowances that others grant upon people who are not themselves in order so that they carry the same set of bundles and the privileges that come along with them. And we have German.
Yeah, hello.
Hi.
Yeah, everybody.
Hello. Where are you coming from?
Oh, I'm from Miami.
Oh, welcome. That's southeast corner on that's the giant metropolis, our mega city with 80-story skyscrapers at least.
Yeah.
They're building a new 90-story one, aren't they?
Yeah, this is downtown Miami. But I
Yeah.
live outside Miami.
Okay. North of downtown.
I live more southwest of Miami, southwest of downtown.
Okay. So
Like a far away of the city.
at what elevation relative to sea level?
Oh, Miami's really flat. So, I don't know, 4 feet, 5 feet.
Potentially one of the future Venuses of the United States, but that's yet to be.
So what are you talking about today?
Well, we were kicking around the idea of maybe talking about the origin of rights and an exploration of that, but it's still open. We haven't locked into any one aspect.
You have the right to vote on it and to introduce your own topic. So today we'll be talking about what topics to talk about.
At least until intermission, which comes up in what, 5 minutes or 3 minutes?
Yes, in a few minutes we're gonna get kicked out. So don't forget to come back after I start a new meeting for another 40 minutes or so.
Yeah, less than a minute. Here we go.
Uh-oh.
So, also, I just want to remind everyone that you have the right to remain silent in case any of what is said here today potentially incriminates you to a future tribunal. So she's gonna toss that out there.
Well, remember, in a group of philosophers, the overwhelming impulse of each person is to set each of the others right and correct their wrong ideas.
You have the right. You have the right to correct the other's wrongs.
Yes. And of course, the idea of all of the others is that that person has no right to correct their ideas.
But
Yes.
how do you know that the other person?
Ooh. Hmm. Hmm. Give me time. Oh. Welcome, Mike. Oh. Welcome, Mike. Welcome, Mike.
That was quick.
Let's see.
Let's look for the other reincarnatees.
Welcome, Rami.
It'll be curious to see
Welcome, Domenic. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Welcome. Where's Anna? Welcome, Herman. German Farinas Perez. Welcome, Rami, Domenic. We're back. Oh,
Senor Perez, how do we pronounce your first name?
My first name is Herman.
Herman, thank you.
Like Herman with H. Like the writer Herman Melville. Is the same.
Like Herman's Germits.
Because in Spanish the G and the E pronounced like H.
It's Herman.
Yeah.
Correct? Mucho
Correct.
gusto.
Very
Mucho
good.
gusto. Mucho gusto.
Oh,
mucho gusto.
Gracias. De nada.
I took French, so which is fairly useless in Florida. But I remember going into the restaurant where very few were speaking English, and I was just reading the board, and kept on asking for the polo, and I kept on receiving cake.
Oh no. Pollo.
yeah,
And
that's
then a stick in your hand and said, "There's the horse."
I don't know if I get that. There's the horse. What does that mean? Sorry for killing the joke.
polo.
Pollo.
Chicken. It's chicken.
Oh, I see. Polo with the horses. Yes, right. Okay. Yeah, I didn't make that connection at the time, but some restaurants do serve horse. I think that one is even in Toronto. Have you, Domenic, partaken in the delight of a horse loin?
Being a vegetarian, no. So I have to say no.
Okay. Well, there's another aspect of it, and I know that just as the whole thing got shut down, was it, Herman, did you have a question that you were asking?
Oh yeah, no, I was asked somebody. I think was Mike. He said that the philosophers they want to correct another philosopher.
Right.
I just was asking, how do you know that the other person is wrong? How do you know that you have to?
Great question. So I think rights are, generally speaking, just one side of a coin, because on the other side is the responsibility, right? And I gotta wonder if Anna was here, she'd have to decode what we meant by right, because right could be meaning affirmative, or it could be meaning the other thing that we're trying to express here. So affirmative or this other thing. But the responsibility that we have is to test nearly everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Affirmative. I'm gonna from now on. I'm just gonna say affirmative if I mean to. Well, I do understand.
Oh,
Well, ideally, philosophers settle on what is right and what is wrong by appealing to reason and possibly experience.
Oh, good.
Ideally. Very often, there are lots of problems which crop up in that the reasoning often has flaws, sometimes very subtle, that one may not notice. And you often will have two different philosophers using exactly the same word in completely different ways and not noticing that. So, basically that's that's some of the ways in which the game is played.
That's when you use a meaningful language like English. English is very cumbersome with all its meanings.
Well, I think it's useful for manipulation, which is probably what has lended it the ability to go global, because you can sell a contract meaning one thing to the people agreeing to the terms of the contract, and then with the knowledge of the person writing the contract, holding an understanding that the court of law, who's going to be ultimately enforcing it one way or another, would have a different interpretation of certain words within that legal document.
Can I give you an example, Rami? Here in Canada, we passed, not we, but there was a law passed, even though there's more to the law to it than just the 33 page. They passed a law in Canada on being able to smoke hemp. So now, a person that questions himself, question reason itself, when did anybody tell me it was legal or illegal to put anything into my mouth? Now, if I choose to drink poison, it's still my choice. This is where rights get split with right and wrong. That's why you use the word, give the person the benefit of the doubt, because rights are usually an internal thing. So now, if I choose to drink poison, but I have insurance, I void that contract. So to play the game in the after effect, where a person says, now it's legal to smoke hemp, or really many usages, but to smoke hemp, you already know you've got a person already in the illusion realm. So, and most people, what happens is with rights, they become attached. That's one of the bigger part of attachments. There's the karma part, the action part, where Buddha was standing on, but it was the mental state. So to think that we have rights on an external way is very delusional. Now, because we're already playing in that delusional game, now we play this child game where now we construct all these ideals of rights and wrongs. It's a preference. So if a person wants to put his hand on the stove, that's his preference. Now, to tell somebody else that's right or wrong, you can tell from my own personal experience. This is how philosophers play this game. They'll use, doesn't matter what language they use, they're really just sharing their own views on things. As I'm doing the same thing right now, I'm sharing my views, my interpretation. The language doesn't belong to me, so I get to experience it.
What's the difference between delusional and illusional, or delusion and illusion?
They're both being, it plays on the senses. It's not on the intellect. Illusion is something, it's not the physical, it's more in the unknown realm. So when we use language, we can't see that. That's the illusion. Karma is only about action. That's the side effect. So you can have a thought and not ever bring it into the physical realm where you have to do actions. So most people are caught up in the material world. That's why we have so many karmas.
Again, definition. What is the difference between illusion and delusion?
I can give you, if you want, I can go on Google and I can give you all the definition you guys want. I'll put it on the chat because, I can have my own interpretation of it. But once again,
sure, if you want to affirm the authority of Google, go ahead.
No, I'm not saying the authority. I'm saying we're leading towards other people's interpretations. I can give you my own, but then again, like I said, English is a combination of 4 languages, and they're all meaningful languages. It's not like Greek, where it's a complex language, or Sanskrit, which is a healing language. When we're using the language of English, the sounds and frequency that we use will determine how we interpret information and how we share everything.
Okay, it is one of the two words, illusion and delusion, older Candy Lee has shared with us in the chat. Delusions are like illusions, but they're meaner. A delusion is a belief in something despite the fact that it's completely untrue. Hence, the phrase is delusions of grandeur. People with delusions often wind up on the shrink's couch. Whether you're trying to deceive yourself or someone is trying to deceive you, if you believe the false idea, you have a delusion about reality. Cold. Delusions are closely allied to hallucinations and generally accompany the latter. That's from Samuel Henry Prince. Quotes. Two medical experts have concluded then that the accused gunmen suffered from schizophrenia, disordered thinking, and delusions. It's from Reuters. For some reason, I want to say Reuters, but that sounds weird for me. I don't know why. Basically, I think he's suffering from delusions of grandeur, he said. It's from another from the organization's Chicago Tribune. An illusion shows up in art, while illusions love kids' parties. Illusions love kids' parties. If, because that's plural, kids' parties. If you believe something despite reality, you have a delusion. Illusions. So we actually, this spawned into at least 4 different ideas here. Because there's this illusions love kid, while illusions love kids' parties. What does that mean?
I have the impression that illusion tends to be something that comes from outside, whereas delusion tends to be something wrong with our thinking, something that comes from inside.
So like they're both in the same spot. And now I just put up the word illusion. Illusion actually is fake. It's what your senses pick up. Again, we're senses. We use visual. We use our hearing. We do our touch. Well, where do they come from? Hence, illusion is on the metaphysical. Metaphysical. It's in the unknown. What you're just seeing is the material realm. So now, when you're looking at the word illusion, you have to look at the word illusion. One plays on the mind, one is on the senses. Both of them are being pulled by an emotion, or a bunch of emotions. And most people don't have developed emotions. Most of us fail each other emotionally. Because when a person is angry, for example, listening, he or she knows when to use that particular emotion. So now, some people get happy for no reason whatsoever, or get happy everywhere. They're not really emotionally developed. If they understand there's a place for everything, it's like numerical numbers or colors. There is certain places to apply certain things. So when I say the word delusion, you have to understand what the word D stands for. Now, you go inwards, and then you can look at all the different interpretations. One of them might resonate with you in that moment. One meaning does not give everything for everybody. And again, thank you, Candy. We're using dictionaries to reach. And who are these people? It's like somebody saying, a scientist. Give me a name. You give me a name, and I can ask questions. Okay, what was your conditioning as a child? Were you delusional? Were you illusional? Are you intellectually numb? This is why most people, when they say, I'm not an examined mind. What is a mind? That's where thoughts come from, or reside through. So now, if you can't question reason or patterns, which are habits, then how people are going to realize the emotion pulls all of that, whether it's your senses, your feelings, your thought apparatus. We're all talking from the conditioned realm. And most of our conditioning is not actually done in physical, it's actually in a certain place, whether it's other or the media community surrounding us, with sound. So, where rights come from.
And if there's one thing that we've established is that rights, that for every bundle of rights comes an equally balanced bundle of responsibilities, both on those who are claiming the rights and those who are claiming to respect the rights of others.
Mm-hmm. If you have the ability to respond, yes. Most people are in the reactive mode, so they don't really.
In the first thing that Candy Lee shared, there's also the introduction of the idea of the illusion. The illusion being perhaps like a reference to the fact that sometimes fiction is more real than the news reports. In other words, you can have a play or drama which can speak the truth better than your nightly news report, or even better than the quote-unquote nonfiction factual dictionary, which itself could have the definitions changed in order to introduce popular illusions, or it could be a function of something diluted within the body accepting the new definition, because not everything that's introduced is necessarily proven out given time. And then Arrow asks, what's a hallucination? There's this other thing in the original thing that Kenny Lee shared. The idea of while illusions love kids' parties. I'm still not quite sure what that means. While illusions love kids' parties. Is it because kids are kind of tickled by illusions, and that's what allows them to have a life? Allows them to propagate. I'm sorry.
I'm reading.
Okay.
Yeah, when I raise my hand, I work with middle school people, and I work in ESOL, English as a second language. So that's why sometimes when these words are really higher than the kids' level, but I like to look things up because sometimes, I try to explain what it means. So sometimes I have to look it up and figure out how to explain it to somebody. Or if I use a word and the kid goes, what does, empathetic mean? And then I have to explain it. So sometimes English is very, embarazada means pregnant. So how do you explain that it doesn't mean embarrassed? Or I'm teaching a Thai kid and he has all kinds of symbols. So, sometimes language is just very hard to explain. So I just look at it from a viewpoint of, let's just start from the beginning so that I can explain it in a simple manner.
What languages do?
I wanted to let you know that the other fellow who's also in the room, Luis Delpino,
Speaks French.
He hails from Spain. He grew up under a dictator. Also lived in France as an interpreter. So he knows at least 3 languages. We know this, but maybe has studied in another one as well. I don't know who he is. And he's also the guy who infected Haro.
Hi, Luis.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Beautiful endeavor teaching the kids another language.
Yes.
So rich. Language is what makes us human, really human. That's the special stuff about human beings. Just communication and using sounds and making words and sentences, and then from that you have depth and creativity, imagination. It's absolutely beautiful. I am in love with language.
Yeah.
There's body language.
And most language is actually in our intonation. And it's the not the words, but how the words are spoken,
Right.
and then also the visual.
Right.
So you guys were talking, when I came in, you guys were talking about this delusion and illusion.
No, we're talking about rights.
What's the thing? Same thing.
And the responsibilities tied with them.
Yes. Wow, that goes deeper than I imagined. But well, when you talk about rights and responsibilities, liabilities, that's at the core of the human discourse, the social contract. Because if we were on this planet by ourselves, just me, and nobody else, it changes the dynamics of life. And yet you fight against it. Actually, you have to survive in the environment that you can't blame You can't blame the environment because it doesn't have any intentionality, it doesn't know any better, it just is. While when you are in a collective, you have other individuals that do have understanding, and they have hidden agendas, and they have their own will, and they have their own understanding. They have to deal with all that. So this guy, did he do this, on purpose? Was it an accident? Was he deluded? Was that an illusion? You're trying to read somebody else's mind and intentions, the intentions behind their actions, which is what affects you. So it makes this a very complex environment.
You invoke the word collective, but
yeah.
I want you to be able to finish your thought.
Yes. Well, in the same, I'll answer your question. It goes right along with where I was going with this. Is that humans are gregarious animals, and so we stick together. Actually, that's what makes us very advanced in a sense, because we build on each other. The fact that we stick together and we organize and we collaborate and we work together. Sometimes we don't work together at all, but it doesn't matter. In the end, we are like a good virus. We're very good at growing in numbers.
Careful, that's a dangerous sort of connotation, because
I know.
Who is it? The popular idea of the starts with EUG Genesis would say, some might make the claim that humanity is a virus upon the earth and therefore must be eradicated. Except for me and my human friends.
We're a living organism. We're a living organism like any other living organism on this planet. So we are what we are. We are who we are, and then we grow. We coordinate around it.
Right there is the root of I think of collectivism, is the idea of the we, but specifically the idea of who gets to define the rules of the we. So anyone who makes that claim is like, take for instance the United States of America. We fought a revolution under these Articles of Confederation, which was the basis of a decentralized, open, very low tax, very high liberty sort of document. I mean, we won we won a sort of independence from an empire as a result of that. And then within 2 years, that gets sort of politically couped and replaced with a constitution that is accepted if you include this bundle of rights, which have been steadily eroded throughout this millennium, right? Like Fourth Amendment, no, you don't get that anymore. And Fifth Amendment, which is like due process. Well, your due process will take place in a court somewhere after we've already seized your land and given it over to this other group to build a casino that they don't actually build, essentially what happened in New Jersey. I mean, but the people who are defining the collective, let's say, who writes the Constitution in order to go west and conquer out to the sea and go further west and take the Philippines, to take Cuba and Puerto Rico, and established at one point we had 1,000 bases all throughout the world. Those are the results. Is it an illusion? Is it a delusion? Are those things that are they natural phenomenon, because hierarchies are natural phenomenon, and it's just the nature of living organisms playing out in formalisms that others come back and say, oh, okay, I'll just go along with that. We're not really understand it, but through their own activity, because part of that bundle says some of my energy is to go towards those ends of, let's say, conquest for the benefit of whoever's on the top of that pyramid.
Yeah. The collective is a group of people that decided to you always have an option to fault. Yeah, I mean, you can shoot yourself, you can run away, you can hide in the desert, you can you have somehow the possibility of saying, I'm not playing this game. I'm out of the collective. I just want to be by myself.
It's interesting. I gotta wonder, see, you're like a master manipulator here, Luis. I just sort of.
Thank you.
Somehow been able to resonate that in a short order. But I know your business is what, incinerators?
Yep.
For human remains. So you didn't miss an opportunity to choose the option which is best for your personal line of business.
Mm-hmm. I take your point. No, really, the individual. An individual that is self-aware and that has full thinking, rational, cognitive capabilities, can always step up of the game.
What does that mean, self-aware?
Those are deep questions, and self-awareness is a knowledge, right? So the way I define self-awareness is a knowing that knows is knowing. That's why I define self-awareness.
So, self is any that knows it knows? Isn't that
right.
sort of falling into the trap of
Yeah. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you have to describe human consciousness some way. What is it? To me, if because you can't say it's a thing because you don't find it anywhere. You can't just touch it, right? So human consciousness is a process. It's an organismic process. Something that arises or emerges from the interaction of neurons that we know of, because it seems to be located somewhere around here at the brain. But it's not really located anywhere, so it's delocalized. But it is somehow an input-output. I described it also as a data processing. It's consciousness you get input from the outside. You perceive, through the eyes, through the ears, through that, and then that data, that input data is processed, analyzed, and somehow played with or known, and then you do things with it. You can lift your hand, you can lower your hand, you can talk, you can.
So there's a trap there, and I think sometimes talking with you, I feel like it's like going around the whirlpool or a black hole,
Mm-hmm.
because self becomes the end.
And the beginning.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But the point being is that it becomes a totalitarian. There's this wonderful line, I think, from the 17th chapter of Huxley's By the World, where Mustafa, the controller within that society, asks John Savage, the person who was raised outside of the society, do you know what a philosopher is? And John doesn't miss a beat. He comes back and says, yes, those who think and dream of that which is smaller than the world.
Listen, you know me enough. You know me enough to know that I always look at everything and nothing from two perspectives that look as they are different, opposite, but at the same time they're complementary. When you said this is the end. The end is the beginning. In my worldview, there is no beginning and no end, and the world only knows itself. Reality only knows itself through consciousness, which is for example, just to give you an example, reality sees itself through the eyes of a mosquito. But it's not very complex, not very sophisticated to our knowledge. But through the eyes of the human being, and because we can communicate, we can compare notes, it is clear that we have a very complex, very abstract, very subtle way of understanding reality. So reality sees itself through the human consciousness with a certain degree of clarity, delusion, or illusion, or I would say exactitude. What am I? If reality asks this question, and it does to some minds, because when the mind asks, what am I, or who am I? It's reality asking itself, what am I, or who am I?
Right.
So,
there
in the end,
hours of this already.
I know.
Within
So where do rights come from? I think that was the subject of this conversation. Where do rights? Obviously from the human consciousness. We ask.
Disagree.
Oh, okay. There were rights before we were here to ask the question.
Well, I think rights are an effect of a cause. Now,
The cause is consciousness.
oh no, again, I'm going to disagree. because at the heart of these things, and I have to thank Candy Lee here for posting her initial post, is the illusion. You and I operate off of different illusions, different stories that tell the truth of reality better than the nightly news report. So when I think of what you're experiencing, I see an unbounded universe in which that is all that there is, that is infinite, and all is possible within it, within the realms of our ability to perceive those possibilities. And I'm coming from an illusion that says that we live in a bounded universe created by a being which could be bound or unbound, that's not really known, but which has the ability to move throughout time and can be the totality of time, which enables the same, well, I would argue, an even finer degree of reality and set in series of events and understandings and activities and happenings.
I see where you're
That
going
makes
with
a
this,
difference.
but to me, I simplify things a lot. I don't make up an entity. I just look at reality as everything and nothing at the same time. It's unbound. You said it. Reality is unbound. It's infinite, eternal.
According to your illusion.
No, physics tells us. Physics tells us. I mean, I don't.
Okay,
I don't know if you don't believe in physics.
No, it's not that I don't believe in physics. It's not that physics is something to believe. Physics is something that's observed. Also, you're using the experts say, which is a tricky language. Okay, because so much of it, at least the predominant Western scientific model, is the idea that stems from that, at least the common model comes from the Belgian mathematician who was a priest who gave us this primordial atom, which commonly became the Big Bang as an understanding. Now, other people come and say, well, it's really, we don't know what comes before that, but the primary model within the frame that we're in, within the universe we're in, understands that there's a beginning and knows not necessarily if it's going to be an end or when or how, but some sort of potential conclusion. But there doesn't even have to be a conclusion that we have to comprehend. The question is there an absolute beginning and do we accept that? Or do we say, well, there were universes always before? But if we're going to do that, are we not entering into the realm of delusion? Because it assumes the fact, if we do that
you assume
that we're possible of comprehending something that we physically would not have any ability to detect or understand, know, or measure. So I would say that the same thing to do would be to accept that there is a beginning. That we cannot know if there is or was anything prior to that beginning, except that we could say that there was a cause to that. That's a philosophical argument for God, one of many. Go ahead, Kennedy.
Well, I will confess I practice Buddhism, and when we chant Myōhō Renge Kyō, is what gives rise to all things. That could be anything.
Right.
If you want to say what gives rise to all things, We don't know what gives rise to all things, but whatever gives rise to all
Well,
things.
in Buddhism, they ask that, they answer that question. In Buddhism, it's sunyata, which is nothing. Everything comes from nothing.
There you go.
And Taoism, Lao Tzu says this idea of I don't know. We translate it in English as nature, or the Tao.
The Tao is the way, the Eightfold Path, the Fourth Noble Truth, the Four Noble Truths.
You just went Taoism to
It's the same.
Buddhism.
It comes from the same root. Tao is, or Tao is the way, and the way is the Eightfold Path.
So I think what we can do, apart from the various religions or belief systems or philosophies, is agree that there is a common origin.
Yeah, nothing is the common origin.
Well, nothing is your understanding of the common origin because nothing is your experience of the common origin.
But listen,
I've got a different experience that says to me it's something greater than nothing.
If you want to believe that there was a beginning and that something was there before the beginning caused it, it's okay. I don't have a problem with that. But I used to believe that, and then I came to the conclusion after a lot of thinking, a lot of reading, a lot of, I said, no, there is no beginning, and there's no beginning, and there is no end. It's all, reality is that.
But
when you don't have the experience, how does something come from nothing?
Well, if you listen to the experts in physics, the more they look into empty space, the more they realize that the whole energy of the whole universe is potentially there in zero Kelvin.
And where does zero come from?
But it's the same reality. Reality is everywhere.
And where does zero come from? I say it comes from -1.
Well, that is a common thing in the genetic allegory, because we're talking about, and Nietzsche explored the beyond good and evil. I think that sort of turned dark, but the will to do evil has to come from somewhere.
We got 30 seconds left. Oh no, we got what? 3 minutes and 20 seconds left, and then when we get kicked out, I'll start a new meeting for another 40 minutes.
I love this new format.
So I don't know if we want to continue talking about is there a beginning
has something he wants
or
to
if we want to talk about human rights.
Herman, I think you get to round up the following 3 minutes, and anyone else. Luis and I have spoken enough.
So I was thinking, if there is a beginning, so this contradicts the law of cause and effect. Because this is the thing who caused that beginning. So we have to accept that there are some things that comes without necessity, without a
That's right.
cause.
Some things are one thing.
Contradict the law of cause and effect.
So the universe was caused by God, but God was not caused. Okay, so the universe was not caused. Because
But what if
you take out the middleman, the universe was not caused.
But what if there is a beginning that caused? There is a beginning, and it caused the cause and effect.
No, but what was the cause of the beginning?
There is no cause without effect. There's no effect without cause. That's why there's no beginning and no end, because it's a circular logic.
In the traditional philosophical term, the phrase is the uncaused cause.
Okay, so the universe has no cause because the cause that caused it has no cause. So
Oh no, you're
no
simply
cause to the
denying.
universe.
You're simply denying God. I'm saying that.
No, I'm just saying.
That may be a word that some people have baggage with.
No. I'm just saying that.
They're saying there's no uncaused cause. The universe just is, but we don't know how it came across because we're denying that there's a cause.
If there is a God.
So we're saying that the universe must have always been, but the physics, the experts, if you listen to the physics, and if you listen to the experts, they say there's a beginning.
No,
So how do you contend with that?
they don't.
But
Let me say this to you. If there is a God, God wasn't caused, and God caused the world, the reality, then reality isn't caused, because there is no first cause. So it doesn't matter if there is a God or not, there is no cause.
But it matters when it comes to a discussion of rights.
Oh,
Because if there is a God and they're created in God's image, then our rights stem from some nature of that image of God who creates. Go ahead, Candy Lee. And you may be cut off, so maybe.
Okay, I'm not gonna boost you to death, but if we are all little gods, and we are all little universes, and we are gods ourselves, then it's not that there's not an external God, but we prefer to say that God is internalized,
right.
and it's not out there somewhere. So we are all our own little.
I agree with that.
Oui. Welcome. Let's see. I'm waiting for them to join. Oh, Dominic joined. Oh, Rami joined. Oh my. Welcome, Dominic. Welcome, Rami.
Session 3.
Welcome, Herman. Welcome, Luis Del Pino is back. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say may be used against you in a court of philosophers.
The court of law is an interesting idea. Luis, you brought up the collective, and the court of law seems to be one of those functions of many collectives all throughout various human tribes and societies out there.
I want to take up that comment. That I'm sorry, I don't see your name here. Only Annie, was it?
Candy?
Candy, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
A very interesting thought. I agree with you very much. Each individual mind through which reality sees itself is actually the creator and the destroyer. Like Shiva says, I'm the creator and the destroyer. To me, reality starts with self-consciousness and ends with the self-consciousness. And it goes over and over. And that's what in Buddhism we call the rebirth. What is reborn is reality, not someone the reality. Because if we understand Buddhism properly and we understand anatta, which is or anatman, which is self, it is clear that whatever happens in reality has no being associating with it. So it's just a process of taking, coalescing of things together, and then they fall apart at each other. All compounded phenomena are impermanent. So every time that a self-consciousness arises to ask anything like rights or what's going on or who am I, it's reality asking that question. So we are indeed the beginning and the end. Each consciousness is the beginning and the end. You can see the alpha and the omega, i.e. I am what is, and that is God. In the Bible they talk about that like that. Hindus talk about that, and Buddhism talks about that in other terms, but the same way.
Also wanted to thank you, Candy Lee, for mentioning or bringing into point the idea that we each universe is unto ourselves, with understandings that any experience of God that we might have is one that's internal, and then
so are the rights then. You know, that's an internal thing.
Well,
It's a mental decision. It's like, okay, what is a right? Who's right about what, etc., etc. In the end, it's all autotelic. Right makes sense to me if I want to play the game with a collective. But at the end of the day, I could just hide myself from the collective, and I assign my rights to be alive or not to be alive, to eat, not to eat, do this, do that, take a left or take a right.
Where are you from, Luis?
I was born in Madrid, so I was Spaniard. And when I was a young kid, my family moved to Paris. So I was about 6. My family moved to Paris and stayed there about 6 years. By then, I was kind of a little French boy. And then we returned back to Madrid when I was 12. And then I ended up meeting a young American lady who is still my wife to the present day. We've been together for 30-some years. And she is from Maryland, and we ended up in the States in '87. So I'm kind of a weird mixture of European American. And then there, Spain in the '70s and the '80s was very different. Well, in the '60s, because it was in the '60s when it was very different from France. So Spain was, yes, a very a Catholic, apostolic dictatorship kind of country, whereas in France in the late '60s was very progressive. You know, the country of the lights, a lot of philosophy and openness of this kind of thinking, where you allow yourself to think outside the box, especially the God box.
You had said that you thought, Luis, that God is a middleman.
You make a middleman. I don't. To me, God is.
I don't think. I think you're signing a strong man.
An illusion. To me, God, the concept of God, is an illusion.
Okay, I can accept that.
It's a made-up middleman between nothing, the beginning or whatever, and reality. And we see it, and I took it out of the way. It made much more sense to me.
Sure. Okay. Let me put that around. Between the uncaused cause, which is just another phrase using to represent God.
God.
But God to you means something different than God to me. So I'm going to start with the.
To me, it doesn't mean
uncaused
anything. It
cause.
doesn't exist.
Sure. but let me state that physicality itself, time and space, is what I would claim to be the middleman.
Time and space, and we had this meeting last week about that. We were talking about it. Time and space is a mental actually not a construct. Is the grid upon which mind is able to look at reality. Kant talks about this. Time and space are a priori. They are metaphysical a priori concepts. And that's what, on what we build, that's how the time space is that on which we build the understanding of reality. So without that, we can't think. There's no space, no time. There is no thinking. There's no thinking. There's no knowledge. Without knowledge, there's nothing.
Right. This is where we is the royal we. When you say we build, you're speaking of
the human mind, any self-consciousness. At least in this bubble of 15 billion years, with the 4 laws, the 4 forces of the universe, there is no mental construction or understanding or cognition or anything without the space-time as a base. So it's something that, just like in Buddhism, go from one shore to the other in a boat, the Hinayana or the Mahayana. The space-time is the boat on which reality is able to see itself through a self-aware consciousness.
Yes, it can be perceived as well, maintained.
Rami, are you positing that in the line of cause and effect there is a point that starts it all, and that is God? And can it be posited that because we are created in God's image, that we are therefore godlets, like raindrops, droplets,
like applets in the Java programming
and
language.
so we have the same capabilities that God gave us, and then because of that we can have rights.
That's primarily my argument. It is that the origin of our rights would have to stem from the nature of that fact, that what makes the middleman, which is physicality, is also that which, by nature of our own creation, means that we too would have the liberty to have the power to do in ways in which God, whatever God's self is, has done in order to create effects. And then the rest of it is bound by the same degree of liberty that the other created beings would have, by way of the same like moral and equal fact that they too are of that image, of that same essence or being. And that to me is from whence rights come.
Did you understand that, Candy?
Yes. Okay. Well, I put Hammurabi's code in there, and I'm not going to have not religious, but it kind of, laws are in any religion, do not harm anyone. Okay, so if you go to the Ten Commandments or the Buddhist things, laws were set up so that people could interact together. So when I was in the 6th grade in my school, they were studying the Hammurabi Code. So I just put that in there because it's a set of laws that were made so that everybody could get along in society. And the kids had to study it. Then I had to explain to them what it was. But it more or less was, I think, I don't know, I can't really say, but I think now probably present day, we still have these laws. So everybody has to abide by the laws. If they don't, there are consequences. But the laws are made up by man. Even though it says the Ten Commandments, who wrote the Ten Commandments? I'm not saying God didn't write them, but I'm just saying somebody made them up so that everybody could get along with each other. And if you do something bad to someone, you're going to have consequences.
There's actually a precursor to the Ten Commandments, at least chronologically. There's something that's the 42 laws of Myōhō. Myōhō was an Egyptian goddess who wore a feather, a very large feather, and the idea, she was sort of a gatekeeper to the afterlife. And the way the laws of Myōhō are written, there's a difference between prescriptive and proscriptive. One says do not, thou shalt not, and in the original set of 42 laws of thaqt, they are thou must. So in order to pass into the happy afterlife, and this is sort of like the theological foundational historical basis of this idea, one must comply with these rules to make civilization work, to allow it to function in this society, in this order. And any time that you fail to comply with the compulsion of any of these 42 laws, then that was sin which weighed down your soul. And the significance of the feather is that at the end of your mortal coil, the weight of your soul, which could be weighed down by failure to abide by these 42 conventions, these constructs by man, if your soul weighed more than the feather, then your afterlife would be so great. So I love the fact that you brought up laws, that Luis, that you brought up courts, and that I think it seems like we would all agree that all these are constructs created by people in various cultures, various tribes. They'll all come up with their forms of the body of law and their mechanisms for enforcement of law. And there's a tension, there's a fundamental tension between the set of the body of laws, those constructed by man, and at the other side of it, the desire to be free, to have and to express liberty, which I think is for me again the source and origin of this, coming or stemming from our nature being as connected to that same uncaused cause. So we're not uncaused causes. We are way down the line. But I think that in the heart of each one of us is the desire to have the liberty to do something marvelous. And to the degree to which we sometimes fall into the idea of thinking that laws are going to prevent that, there's a kind of naive conflict. But it's not necessarily naive, because there are such things out there as unjust laws. Before we had the Nuremberg Code, there were the Nuremberg laws, and those were drawn on racial lines. If you weren't born to the right specific branch of humanity, then your rights weren't respected. Your humanity was denied, and people actively sought to extinguish you from the face of the earth.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to disconnect real quick, but I'll just give you my parting words here. Because I am the Alpha and the Omega, it is up to me to decide how I should play the game with others. And I am a libertarian in that regard, and I'm not the first one to say this. I want to play nice with myself for myself, so I assume I have to play nice for others. So the true libertarian philosophy is take care of yourself and take care of others. Don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt others. And that's all my rights right there. And since I am unbound, because I am reality, which is unbound, binding itself to this consciousness, I don't wait for somebody to tell me, what to do and how to do it. So that's your rights are my rights. My rights are your rights. If we all thought like that, and we didn't kick the can down the road to say, I want to be free. I want to be anarchic. I want to do whatever I want because I want to be free, which is a problem in and of itself, because then you can't play with the collective. It's better to go ahead and take responsibility for dictating the rights and obligations at the outset from here, myself, and then apply that to everybody else. Now, if you're completely deluded, you'll just kill all the neighbors. But if you have any common sense, which is the least common of all senses, you will play nice. You will be nice. You'll drive nice on the road. You'll get on with people. You will be understanding, giving, loving, just for the hell of it. Because that's how it's. They explain that in the Gita. They say just be nice without any expectation of anybody else being nice, and you'll see the results.
That's nice.
That's my decalogue, my 10 rules of life.
I want to
summarized
be like Luis Del Pino. I want to be Alpha and Omega and be nice. You can too.
And with that, I'm going to let you guys continue on the Zoom. I'm sorry I have to.
It's a wonderful delusion.
And I hope to see you guys next Saturday.
Thank you.
Thank you, Luis.
Thank you very much. All
See
right.
you next time. It's a wonderful
Who is this?
delusion.
Who is this talking?
Anna?
This is a voice I haven't heard before.
Oh,
Is this
that's
Anna?
Anna. In
Hi
China.
there.
What?
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Okay. We'll see you
Anna.
next Saturday.
Anna,
Thank you.
Anna, can you share Anna, can you share something about laws? Isn't the word dharma sometimes translated as law? Is it like a natural law, or is dharma also man-made, or is it both?
I show you the Taiji Taoism, the picture. Can you hear me? My internet not very well.
Yes, we heard you said
Teacher?
you're referring to the picture, Dharma being the picture as
Yes,
a
yes,
definition.
yes. I share the picture, Taiji picture. Okay. If you are interested in this, we can talk next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
I have to ask you, Hyro, are you sure you want to take on the role of Alpha and Omega? Because when you do that and you mess up, that's going to create a lot of suffering in the universe.
Oh,
And you're going to have to bear the weight of the knowledge that you would have been the cause of that suffering.
oh, welcome back, Herman.
I was asking Hyro since he said he wanted to be like Luis, who I think his final sort of statement was that I am the benevolent dictator of the universe, which I feel like in some ways he's so close, but then at the same time completely in the dark.
Oh, is the
So
Alpha?
I'm going to pose it openly to you, Hyro.
Does the Alpha and Omega mean that one is a dictator of the
Well,
universe?
yeah, I mean, I think Luis's position was we should be benevolent dictators. We should have all the nice things, but not have to acknowledge the responsibility whenever we make a mistake. Because I think that's inevitable because it's like a discussion I found myself in last night where someone had stated, well, all we need is love and people are basically good. We're all familiar with the symbol of the yin yang. And in the white there's the black, and in the black there's the white. So you can have someone who's evil but still have some good in them, and you can have someone who's good but still have in their hearts some evil in them. And because we as human beings are all mixed bags, if we decide that we are God, and out of the course of our decision-making processes, say something or do something which causes harm to others, are we not responsible for that effect?
So as gods, a god is not necessarily perfectly good. A god can be evil also.
You know, the Greek pantheon. Go ahead, Candy. You're actually on mute right now. I'm sorry.
Sometimes I had a phone call that came in. I didn't want to interrupt. I didn't want to disturb. Okay, so you're saying if somebody does something bad, will they be will there be consequences?
I'm saying that that the worst kind of experience a human being can have is to carry out an act while under the belief, delusion. I'm not sure what word to apply there. Under the belief that they are the final authority, they do something. That statement or that action produces a bad result. You see the bad result. You feel the bad result. Maybe not personally. It's certainly not to the degree as those who has to directly suffer the bad result. But you're conscious of oh, wait a moment, that's a consequence of my earlier decision. Once men, women, once human beings decide that they are God, and because of the nature of our being imperfect, whenever our actions or words end up in the inevitable of causing some harm, and then we become aware of that fact. Oh, wait a moment, let's trace this back. Oh, this was because of that thing I said, or this is because of that thing I did. How do you contend with the responsibilities of the conjecture?
At a Buddhist perspective, we would say if you make a cause, you can get a latent effect. Like, for example, if you don't study for a test, then you're going to get an F. And if you make a bad cause, we say you're going to suffer from karmic retribution, which means even though you may think whatever you did is okay, but if you affect somebody else, some way down the road, it's going to come back in some way, which is karmic retribution. So you can't just absolve yourself and say, I'm sorry, because the fact is you did it. If you kill somebody, you killed them. If you didn't study for a test, you're going to fail, probably. So whatever cause you made, you're going to suffer for it. Now we can apologize, and we apologize to ourselves, but the fact that we made a cause and you're hurting somebody else, you have to, we chant for karmic, to lessen the karmic retribution. That's all.
Isn't it wiser to not claim the title or role or throne of God so as not to set someone's self up with the power or authority to dictate to others how things are going to go down, simply, if for no other reason than as an insurance, not to have to suffer that sort of karmic fate? And I'll give an example from right now. Here in the United States, we have a medical advisor by the name of Dr. Anthony Fauci, and he's been basically the bureaucrat that's serving as a mouthpiece, saying what is and is not, and what is right and what is not. And according to the official numbers, which I think a lot of people think are, well, even Dr. Burks, who was one of the advisors last year to the administration of the time, she said that the way deaths were measured was a very liberal form. It wasn't by a kind of means that was standard or that was even being used over in Europe. But from all accounts, it's estimated that something like 130,000 of the 600,000 deaths that are attributed to the current
COVID?
well, yeah, I don't even want to say it. Yeah, right, exactly. It's said that out of that number, something like 130,000 are the result of policy. Policy, not COVID, but people turning to drugs and all these other sort of escapes from the very dark reality and picture that was painted for us. Losing jobs, losing livelihoods, losing a lot of things that gave people their meaning. So, and then most recently, just in this past week, this person named Fauci had stated, if you're doubting, and he's come out and admitted that he's lied multiple times already in the last 15 months, and he's been caught in many more lies since that time. But he's come out and actually said, if you doubt me, you doubt science. He said essentially that he is the immaculate science, and if you don't believe anything that a proven liar has said, and if you don't obey the dictates of the proven liar, then you are against science. He's had the audacity to make that statement, and he's going to be suffering the karmic effects of that somehow, some way. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be in a court of law of man or if it's going to be beyond this realm. But these are just the realities of the consequences of setting oneself up as an authority and playing that role. So this is why when we go back to the necessity of a savior, I'm very specific when I say I'm not God and neither are you, because as soon as you start to venture into that realm, then you're going to set yourself up not just for a future world of hurt, but in the process of that setup, who knows how much untold or I don't know that we'll know the amount of suffering that's been generated as a result. Not just deaths, but long-term consequences that may last generationally. Hopefully they don't.
But Rami, couldn't Dr. Anthony Fauci say that he's not science?
But that's just the thing. He has said essentially that he is. See, he's still
but couldn't he say that he's representing?
His identity is based upon that.
But couldn't he say that he's a spokesman for science? So if you don't believe in what he's saying, then you don't believe in science. But you don't have to believe in me. I'm just saying what science is saying. So then couldn't he be absolved in a court of law and saying, oh, it was science, it was not me?
Great question. But science is science a process or scientific consensus?
And is science today's God?
Science process or consensus? Well, that I don't know how to attach the two. I would say science is a study, and but it's marred. Science is marred by the influence of human desires.
And how does science come about? So isn't there some consensus, like to the accepted theories of this and that? Don't they come about by consensus in the scientific community?
Remember, for centuries, that the scientific consensus was that the universe was made out of 4 essential elements: fire, earth, wind, and
water.
water. Thank you. And that was it. And and the science was that the Earth was the center of the universe, and therefore the Catholic Church has been very specific about airing their dirty laundry in that matter because they enforced a consensus that was wrong. So science is the process, as Mike pointed out to us earlier. It comes with the responsibility of pointing out each other's errors. Because if we're not doing that, who knows what level of harm can come about by operating under the wrong assumptions. And not only that, but science today, we have not only wrong assumptions, but we have enforced wrong assumptions. So that if in the 1950s, Philip Morris decides to hire their science experts to tell you the benefits of smoking, then that's going to affect everyone from not even born yet to now their life is shortened due to the various diseases that come about by the various chemicals that have been used to enhance the addictiveness of the tobacco vegetable.
So are you saying that science is these by consensus is brought about by might, like might makes right, like, and if you have enough money and to put research to prove a point, then it becomes the consensus for that theory and makes it the accepted theory based on research that it can generate to prove their point.
Right. And mind is an extension of will. It's so fundamental. I mean, people don't like the idea of the golden rule not being given to others as yourself, to yourself, and there's 16 variations of that. But I don't know anyone who likes, except for maybe those who have all the gold, those who say that the golden rule, or want to rewrite the golden rule to say that those who have the gold sets the rules. But the idea that gold itself somehow has an influence over the process is a popular sort of, I don't know if it's a or usual, but it's an idea based upon, when it comes down to it, the will of man. And there's the idea, I guess that's where we find the interface between science and God. It's that spirit which is the adversary, which whispers into the ear or the mind of the human, hey, do this, and then you'll be like God. And then that's where death gets introduced.
What do you think, Anna?
Yes, I agree with your opinion. Good opinion.
Thank you.
Can you share, guys? I heard something because a lot of this.
I'm enjoying this meeting. So we just have 2 minutes left.
Oh.
I'm just saying that I have to go after the meeting cut off, so I will not return. So just to say bye and see you next time.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Herman.
Nice conversation.
But after we get kicked out, I'll start another one.
Round 4.
So you usually change the topic every Saturday?
Every 5 minutes, it seems like.
you continue the day or not?
Yes,
I
I will.
can do a fourth round and that's it.
I will continue another one until I get too hungry. I haven't eaten
Can I ask
breakfast.
a question? So you all meet every morning at 7, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, because this is my first meeting.
Saturday mornings.
Right, Saturday mornings at 7.
Yes, you're
And
welcome.
How long have you been doing this? A long time?
Almost a year. And what have
Thank you for
what have we learned this year?
what?
And what have we learned so far this year? Excited. Oh, somebody's knocking at the door. Oh, it's Domenic. He stepped out and now he's back. We have less than a minute. So what are our parting words until we come back? So what have you learned, Anna?
Yes, I.
Ooh. We're back. We're back. We're back for the fourth round. Yes. Okay, I'll put a background. Let's see. Where did I do that? Right here. Choose a virtual background.
Use your illusion.
I don't have a cheetah. Let's see that one. See that one. Ooh, look at that. The Wake Up and Think Clearly logo. Ooh, wow.
Zoom enable allow you to do, yeah, they do like to do animated backgrounds. Imagine if they were spinning and at different rates at different times.
Oh, wow.
So not uniformly. Well, there'd have to be some algorithm driving them. Could there be a truly random?
I could create a GIF or a GIF of one and then put them in the rows 3 by, I don't know, 7 or 8. Oh, we have Candy Lee back.
Now she'd raise her hand.
Oh, Candy Lee,
Candy,
welcome back.
Hi, welcome back. You'd raise your hand.
You have raised your hand. You have the right to speak.
I just wanted to know, every Saturday, do you email us or do we go back to Meetup to get a new link?
Oh, you can try Meetup.
So,
you can join through
so the
Meetup.
The same link will work.
You can use the link.
Thank
Thus
you.
far. And if ever it stops working, you can go back to Meetup to find a new one.
Okay. Yeah, because I just found you this morning.
Wow.
I didn't know you existed, so.
Wow, Meetup works for once. Yay.
Yeah, I
So
use
expensive.
Meetup a lot. It's
Like
it's
$30
very
a
nice.
month.
I joined a Reiki group through the Meetup.
Wow.
It's just down the street. But I've been doing it for like 2 years.
Wow.
It's very nice.
2 years of Reiki or Meetup?
Oh, I've been a Buddhist since 1990. Well, Well, I joined in 1992.
With
You joined Buddhism in 1992.
Tina Turner?
I'm a it's called Tina Turner, yes. Soka Gakkai, yes. Myōhō Renge Kyō. Yeah. And so when I joined the Reiki, a friend of mine passed away, and I was very depressed. So I went online and I found a meetup group, and it was a Reiki group. And so when I went there, I'm a graphic artist and I work at a school. But one of my colleagues was there. I mean, he actually knew the friend that passed away. So it's a night, it's just, there's only about, sometimes there's 6 people, sometimes there's 10 people, but I absorb people's energy a lot. So even when I go to school and I have these negative kids, I try to deflect their energy or change their energy, or, you know, if they give me the finger, I just say you have a bad choice of fingers. You know, but I sometimes when I am around people with negative energy, it really affects me. So the Reiki, I mean, everybody's fully clothed, nobody takes their clothes off, but when you're dealing with people that have positive energy, it's very healing for me. So it's not a Buddhist group, and if I go to a church, then I go to a church. If I have my Jewish friends and I go to a synagogue, then I go to a synagogue. I don't care where you are. It's everybody has energy. So I really have to work on, and even in these groups, if I feel it's a good energy group, then I will do it. So I gravitated towards this group for some reason.
May so it be...
I'm working on myself, trying to be positive.
May we be sending you good positive energy, healing energy to you. Om Namo Myōhō Renge Kyō. How's it go? Namo Renge Kyō?
Oh, here. Nam
Myōhō Renge Kyō. Nam Myōhō Renge Kyō. Nam Myōhō Renge Kyō.
Yes.
Nam Myōhō Renge Kyō.
Yeah, it means, I have meaning. I'll read the meaning to you. It says, the fundamental component of the practice of Buddhism, which expresses the ultimate truth of life and the universe and allows each individual to tap his or her innate enlightened nature directly. Nam is devotion, means to fuse one's life with the universal law. Myōhō is mystic law, is the Sanskrit. It is the fundamental principle of the universe and its phenomenal manifestations. Renge is like a lotus flower, refers to the lotus which blooms and seeds at the same time, symbolizes the simultaneity of cause and effect. And Kyō is the sutra or teaching Buddha, broadly indicates all phenomena or the activities of all living beings. So I read this card for like 4 years, and I kept asking my friend to take me to a meeting. And so when I went, I liked all the people in the group, and it was very diverse. So I decided to join the group. I went for 4 years before I joined.
Wow.
And plus, when you're Christian, when you grow up in a Christian environment, sometimes you think, well, is it God? Is it this? And I got to the point where I don't care if it helps me and it makes me feel better, then I'm gonna go.
Can I share something with you, Shan?
Thank you.
The fact that you are practicing Reiki, from a level of awareness, when one actually starts saying energy, you realize that the masculine side, which you call positive, has to coexist with the negative side called feminine. You also need the child called grounding. So when people talk about cause and effect, or they talk about laws, you're in an energy realm. So, and you're part of it. Your physical proves it. So now when people practice Reiki, the reason why most people come back as healers is because they forgot that in previous lifespans. So now when you are practicing it, usually the ego reveals itself when it means I gotta be happy all the time, positive. We create devices that are negative and positive, hence the thaqt. Those are just small technologies. We're actually in advanced technology. As the observer now, you'll start seeing the negative and positive. The fact that you're affected by people that are negative is telling more that you're attached to your likes. You're not being able to be the observer of those two because they go both paths. When you're in the moment, regardless if you're a biz or us. So now, as you're observing these things, then you realize you're no longer about in the self. Because you know the whole terminology, know thyself, who's the knower of self. When you go to sleep, who functions that vessel? Who's functioning our vessel the last 3 or 4 hours we've been talking? You know, we had in our system, that's where memory ties up and rights. Where are rights? So when somebody says the word cause, inquiries for themselves, and I'm actually seeing the cause, or am I in the effect? This means land, water, and we can't see those things. They have set boundaries. But the thing is, what we have there, principles, commandments, we have policies. That's all entered in the mind. Now, some people lead with their emotions, and that's usually the blood that comes to the heart, where the S, where the seat of the emotion is. So now, as a Reiki practitioner, as you are, you have to become aware of those energies. Because if not, when you're around somebody that is negative, that's your purpose at that moment. To aid them to realize, does it benefit you on the negative, feminine side, the yin side, the wisdom side, discernment. So remember, what you're talking from, so if you're aware, you're coming from a conditioned point of view. My likes and dislikes. It's like telling my buddies, you're eating your food. Those are your likes and dislikes. But is it healthy for you? So just ponder that, you know, go inwards, use your chakras, figure out where they're noted, you know, all this kind of stuff. Even Buddha, he was attached to all the rebirth process.
So you're saying, Dominic, that when the kid raised the wrong finger, it one has to examine why is that to me negative? Is there something wrong with me? So that we can fix that, and so we fix everything that we think is negative, and to the point that everything that we see is positive. So nothing affects us, because even if people are cussing me, it doesn't bother me because it's all positive, and all energy coming to me is positive. Can that be done?
It's just strike out an inquiry. That will reveal whether or not you have reaction or the ability to respond. If the person raises my questions, may I ask you why you're doing that? That's coming from a non-biased position. The person reveals himself. Well, I don't agree with that. Well, so where did you get that condition from? This is why we have so much strife, because people don't know how to take care of their own kingdom. So you're inwards, hence the kingdom here, king and queen. Those are two hemispheres. Those are just two receivers of the 12 receivers we have within that vessel. And they're all receiving messages from the aura and the ether. So now, because we're in an energy form, the mind gets to roam around a little bit. But unfortunately, when you see somebody do something, double check yourself inwards. Why am I having a response or reaction to that? Because you never live in the outside world. When you go in the shower, you're still in here. When you go in the car, you're still here. We're always living within. The outside world is the illusion. And if you're doing...
Or that line of thinking is a delusion. You know, so much men, especially in the West, it could be a universal aspect, but it's the trap of Ergato song. I think therefore I exist. Who was that? Go ahead.
Descartes.
Where is everybody from again?
I'm in Orlando.
Orlando. In Canada.
Toronto is where Dominic's located, and Cairo is what, northwest? Where are you today?
In Lake Mary, Florida.
Central Florida. Cairo.
Oh, north of Orlando.
Mary?
Yes.
Lake Mary. Oh, I don't know where that is.
You know where Apopka is?
I tell everybody I'm from Indiana. I don't know where anything is.
It's due northwest of Orlando. So
okay.
North by northwest.
I see signs. Yes.
There's an exit between Orlando and Daytona.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I've seen a pop. Okay.
I'm more like
You
in
guys are from Florida.
Near Sanford.
Or
Oh, okay.
Domenic here.
Or
Yeah, Domenic.
and
down
you're
here, a whole nother set
and
of
Candy
laws.
is
They're
in
back to
Sarasota.
the laws of Ma'at. They're compelling speech by dictate now. Was that C16 from a few years back that Jordan Peterson railed against?
Are you talking about the pronouns?
On a personal level, when students have wanted to be addressed in a certain way, he's never had a problem addressing them in a way that is in accordance with their preference. But when the bill was passed stating that you had to address people in that way, then I believe in his logic. He spent 30, 40 years, well, majority of his life, studying totalitarian regimes. He recognized that as soon as you start compelling people to say things, then you're already going down that slippery slope into Nazism or
Who are you talking? Who are you talking about?
Jordan Peterson referencing what sort of brought him into the popular light was there's a bill that was passed in Idaho. I don't know if it was a provincial or if it was a federal. It was called, I think, C16 or whatever year parliament that they had, which compelled the use of pronouns, where you would be, was it fined? Was there with the, I expect that
Again, most bills, the way they're set up, Rami, it's like the Hampton bill. What they do is they attach, just to give to the public, maybe 33 pages, but behind all the other pages. So that whole thing Jordan Peterson was talking about, he was only talking about a small fraction. It's all the other bills that were attached to it that they're really going for. It's like me, we send somebody to go rob this little bank over here, but no, we're going over there. So even Peterson himself, learning 1 or 2 degrees and basically practicing it for 20 or 30 years, those are just 1 or 2 degrees. There's so many degrees out there. And we have never worked as a collective, as a race. Forget about all the other races out here, but I'm talking about the human race. So when somebody goes on a little bit, like Jordan Peterson does, he's talking more or less from the mental state of mind. So he's not going to understand where the thoughts reside. Hence, we're going back again, where the rights reside. It doesn't reside in the effect realm. We express it. It's in the cause realm. We say the word cause and effect. We say the word love, but we don't understand its resonance, its energy. The mental mind and the heart has limitations. This is where Kant and all these other characters were going on about. You know, you first have to develop both the mind and the emotions. Then and only then you can do this third thing. Most people never develop the mind, let alone the emotions. And usually I'll give you a little bit of insight on this, where the first 7 years in the rebirth process is the physical development. The next 7 years is emotional development. The next after that is the mental development. And if none of those are in order and shaping awareness, you're not going to have critical thinking, let alone develop emotion. This is why a lot of people, we're no different humans, we're just human form. We lead with our likes and dislikes. So a person will say, I like that. I say, okay, so can you analyze it? This is why I say, if you can't question reason and habits, then you're never going to realize the underlying emotion that's the child leading the parent. Hence wisdom, discernment. When somebody says to me, Dominic, I don't judge, I said, well, you're lying to yourself, but go with that. Or he says, I'm not a materialistic person. I said, you're in the material form. You know, this is where, you know, when we put so much onus, maybe in 100 years, we're going to probably badgerize science. It's just men talking. That's all it is. Or women. It doesn't matter. The first alchemists were women, but there's a reason for that. So what ends up happening is we bastardize all these variations of dogmas, belief systems, and it just delays us to go towards the child, which is knowledge, to know things.
Excuse me,
And you can use wisdom and
Dominic, what is that word that you say? Badgerize? We badgerize?
Yeah, I might have bastardized that.
Oh, bastardized.
Badger.
Oh, bastard?
Bastardized.
Bastardized?
That was probably the better word I was trying to use. And thank you for correcting me. You know, we're using a meaningful language. And it's a combination of 4 other languages. So as we're trying to explain to each other, that meaningful language doesn't have the same resonance if, say, you were chanting in mantra with Sanskrit. You know, even
Right.
Yeah. Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You had a like a moment, so go right ahead.
Well, like he was saying, chanting in Sanskrit, like, okay, I'm gonna say this. We say noze in, noze ka, noze ho, noze hama, kukioto, which means latent effect, manifest effect, other kinds of effects. That's what the phrase means. So when you're chanting this, I didn't know what it meant. I'm like, I have no clue what I'm chanting. I just know that they say if I chant this, I will concentrate on getting my life better. But when I looked it up, then I understood the cause and effect. Because it says that, like, latent effect, it means if you do something now, the cause, you may not feel the effects of the cause until later.
Okay,
So-
can I ask you something before you go on for a second? Can I ask you something?
Yes.
Once you understood that, what part understood? That's your mind. The mind is still in the effect realm. See, for example, when you're chanting, even in Sanskrit, tonality plays a major role. So now, if you're not gifted with a certain tone, no matter what words you use in Sanskrit, you're not going to be able to heal that molecule in your body unless you're around other people that are chanting it. So now, once you understand something, the fact that it's your mind, or you feel, or you're sensitive, then you know you're still in the effect realm with all its side effects. You don't know where tonality comes from. I don't know what keeps all the different laws in place, why the land stays the way it is. So we're saying the word cause and effect. It's like saying the word love. Love is unconditional. You have to be the observer. So when you, as a child, observing parents that are showing what we call love, but really what they're showing, it could be obligation and duty. The energy that the child, as the observer, experiences is actually what's called love. Same with awareness. We're too busy caught up that I have to experience things. But then most people never question, what is the I that I'm talking about? Am I talking about the physical, the mental, the emotional? When you start realizing that, then you start, wait a second, but thoughts aren't mine. So I'm experiencing them. So if I'm experiencing them, then you break it down. What's the sounds and frequency that comes from each word comes from it. So now English doesn't have the same resonance as, say, Sanskrit. Or if you were philosophizing with the language of Greek, which is a comprehension language. Forget about all the other languages. Like there's over 6,000 languages, and then there's some people, they use the African, they go, there's tonality in all of that. How that affects us. So, for example, we're living in a realm right now that we have energies surrounding us: radio frequency, electricity, Wi-Fi. We're surrounded with, all the different sounds that comes from man-made objects, cars, and all that kind of stuff. That plays havoc on us. This is why we go into disease mode. It's not just based on our physical food. It plays on our mental and emotional auras. So now, when a person says he's or she says, I'm a Buddhist, okay, what makes you a Buddha? Like, I'm a Buddhikata. I get that. I play in both realms. A Buddha is an enlightened person, but what is enlightenment? You're coming from the unknown into the light. So this is why when people say, when I had light near-death experience, I saw the light. If a person's genuinely aware of what light is or sound, they'll realize that's where thoughts exist. That's where emotions exist. They exist in the child realm, the thought realm, the illusion realm. Karma is just action. So if a person says, I'm going to forgive myself, am I going to forgive the thought I have before I put it into the physical realm? Now, if you choose to do the physical realm, always play in the material realm, then you're going to accumulate many karmas. But your thoughts and what you call action are two different things going on. So you can have a thought, which is one type of frequency. You can have a language as I'm speaking out loud. It's like I share people all the time. I'll show you this object, material. Where do you see paper? You don't see the language. So now you know you're in a spiritual realm. Hence the terminology tree of good and evil. It was a spoken language a long time ago. It was never written. Even today, people forget. When you're born as a baby, do you know how to read and write? No, that's a dumbed down version. What you're seeing is sound.
What was
So I
that
just shared a little
sound?
bit, guys, and
What was that sound, Candy? That you were saying something about that you didn't understand the meaning of that mantra, and then you looked it up, and then there's also something else.
I was saying that when people chant, it's like if you go to a Catholic church and they're all doing Latin, that's just what they do. So if you go to a Buddhist meeting and they're all in Sanskrit, there's a translation for it. But I didn't know what the translation was. I just knew that we were chanting. So then I looked up the meaning, and I found it talking about cause and effect. And so when Domenic was talking about parents interacting with each other and they're in a harmonious state, it's going to affect the children. But if the parents aren't in a harmonious state, that's going to affect them as well. You don't have to be a Buddhist to figure that out. It's just Buddhism. I look at Buddhism as a philosophy. So I don't profess that that's the only way. I just like the concepts of what it teaches. That's all.
Welcome, Joel. Welcome, Joel.
Bye, Joel.
To another episode of Wake Up and Think Clearly. Joel is in Toronto.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I was actually, I'm happy to hear from anyone, but I was hoping that Professor Del Pino might be here because I have questions about Aristotle and logic.
Leave him alone, Joel. Leave him alone. He's not here right now. Leave him alone. If you want to give you his email address and you can talk to him directly.
Okay, does anybody else here have interest or knowledge of Aristotle's interpretation of knowledge? I'm running into 4 terms that I don't understand, and I thought with the collective wisdom of the co-op in Florida aligned with Dominic's cat in Toronto.
Yeah, my cat is pretty wise.
Well, he's a grandson of Kant's cat.
He was, yes, he was. A long time ago, he was.
What were you gonna say, Candy? Or are you gonna look it up?
I was just gonna say, do we want to have that as a topic for next time?
Or
Because Mr. Del Pino might be here the next time.
oh, if Joel comes in earlier, he might catch Del Pino, and he can. But we can attempt to answer Joel's question, and maybe Candy can look it up too. What are the words?
The first one is epistemological idealism.
You got it. Oh, I see right here.
I put it in the chat.
All right.
Epistemology.
And the second one is conflating objects with instruments. I don't understand what any of these things mean exactly. I've heard the terms before.
Where'd you hear this? Did you come from another meetup?
From Aristotle?
Well, sort of. There was a guy who has come up with a new form of logic, and he invited me to his meeting, but it was on Discord. Okay. And I don't know how to use Discord.
Mm-hmm.
So,
were you fascinated by the topic? I have to ask you, are you fascinated by the topic?
I was.
Did you cut and paste maybe on Google all these meetings? Because really, it's like, I guess the conversation was talking about rights, and I guess you're jumping on, like, unless you're going to give us all the meanings for all of that, I can use my imagination to describe anything on those things.
No, I think you've probably. So I'm actually a bit relieved to see that I'm not the only one that these have no immediate meaning for.
No, they could, but
You just be imagining it. You like.
Well, isn't that what most of us do? Don't we use our imagination, our intuitive, our insights, and then we use our conditionings to describe it? What I'm just saying is, it's like when people talk about next week. I'm the kind of person, you do your homework. If you're going to come there, like, that's where the schooling system fails us. Go into your own little room and play with it. You come in, you basically give us 5 different topics.
What is epistemology?
Bull in the China set right now.
Sorry about that.
No, don't be wrong. I'm just being arrogant on my part.
Yes, Candy.
Jay's okay with it, no problem, but...
What?
I would like to leave the meeting because I have an appointment, but I just wanted to tell you guys, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I will see you next Saturday.
All right. Thank you.
You have rights to do that?
You have the right to come
You have
back.
rights to do that, Candy?
Oh, you have the right to leave.
I'm going to go do more research so that I'll be better.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Candy.
Oh, you can post it, Joel. I'm okay with it. Go ahead.
Oh. Rami is back.
Hi, Rami.
who,
Joel,
you know,
Joel
there's
Schuster
something-
was here, and he posted some words to think about: epistemological idealism in conflating objects with instruments, and positing modally possible worlds, and misconstruing the law of identity. Something that he picked up from another meeting on some kind of new logic. So they're all.
Okay, sounds interesting.
What does the word epistemological mean?
Search for truth.
Ah,
Or determine, how does one go about determining the truth?
oh, is
Thank
it?
you, everybody.
Thank
I'm
you,
gonna
Candy.
go right now. And I sent you a note in the chat, Remy.
I saw, I'm going to send you an email follow-up so that we will go through this.
All right, thank you. Have a nice day, everybody.
So, nice to
See you
Candy.
next
Thank you very
Saturday.
much. I really appreciate it.
I hope you learned something, and I hope you got good energy. Oh, she gave us good energy. Oh, she gave us a mantra. Nam Myōhō Renge Kyō, or something like that. Nam Myōhō Renge Kyō, Nam Myōhō Renge Kyō, Nam Myōhō Renge Kyō.
Hey, are there any Star Trek fans? I'm talking about the original series. Yeah, I've seen them all, but
Yes.
who remembers the March 1st, 1968 airing episode? I'll give you the title of it. It's called The Omega Glory. Well, so before we go into that, Domenic, you had mentioned that only a small part of that bill speech. And we said that it reminded me of the warning in the Hebrew law not to allow the yeast to infect the community, referring to the idea that it puffs things up. So when Peterson sees this little sort of line in this massive bill, that he sees that and recognizes it as a warning towards the slippery slope to totalitarian government. The ancient Hebrews see that same sort of yeast of puffing up mankind to the level of God, to be a pharaoh, God on earth, that has the ability to rule and dictate over and say what people have to say, and people only have to do what they think. People have to say what they it was right. You know, it's like you gotta give parlance to Mao, or to the Pol Pot, or to the Kim, or to the Stalin, because if you don't, oh well, you can be erased from their history, right?
Mm-hmm. I guess, Rami, in that sense, governments are just policy pushers. They're not the makers. The government's never making anything. So when you hear terminology, they're passing laws or passing budgets. Literally, that's what they're doing. There's people that play all
I'm
those.
gonna give my wife her coffee.
Go ahead.
Governments are policy pushers.
You posted it to me, or you posted it out as Facebook. What's your views on what they call rights? Like, I know you have views. Would you like to share them? Would you mind sharing them?
I think that rights were at one time not granted or guaranteed, and so now we're supposed to have this and that right, and the right is a privilege to allow one the freedom to do something upheld under that right, and guaranteed by the government, and so protected, and so and under the rules of the court. And so if the right is violated, then we can take it up in court, in the court of law, that my right has been violated. But then that makes governing difficult, because if the government wants to do something very totalitarian, and then it could cause rights to be violated. And so what happens there? What if the government wants to do something for the benefit of all, but it violates the rights of all? But it's good for all. So there is a conflict of interest there, a conflict between the benefit of all and the rights of all. So what if the government wants to put a policy that saves lives, but by doing so it violates rights?
Well, here's one. Was it? Is there okay? In the material part, you see that there's slavery and mastery, but who gave those policies to make one human being a master, let alone a slave? You know what I mean? Like, you're playing on people's senses. So people all look at the negative aspect and say, well, slavery is wrong. Well, who's to say that mastery is right? You know, that's where we get, you know, into those ideal or constructs of rights. You know, we can, and because most people will get what they perceive it as positive, so they'll look more at the fact that, well, then let's play the game wrong. What's wrong in that? You know, so once again, who's the policy makers? You know, the guy that was the master, he was just the master to slaves. It's like a guy that works at a company. We'll just see the people that work, and you'll see the administration, but you never see the owners. So I guess as I'm hearing you talk about it, and those are your views on rights. Well, thank you for sharing that, Jay. You know, but is it yours? Or are you taking it from a small portion of the collective? You know, my parents, that's their perception of it, or one of my different teachings, whether it's Hinduism, Buddhism, or many variations of all different systems, state or science. You know, it's when somebody says you're taking it right, so the question is who gave it to me? It goes back to the ideal. When was it legal, let alone illegal, to put something in your mouth, whether it's just tomato or hemp? You know, if you follow the trail, the reason why hemp was always pasteurized is because it was a better product than cotton. And people that smoke it don't understand the properties. They can put it in clothes and absorb it. You know, it's no different from alcohol or tobacco. Whose right was it to put chemicals in those particular devices? Now, a person that just drinks alcohol, straight alcohol, if they have a mental development, they could probably abuse it. And the person says, but I don't understand people that are dependent on alcohol. It's fast for 20 or 30 days, and you won't know what dependency really is. We're depending more on things like food, but we're actually more dependent on air, probably even less. So once again, you know, when we're talking about rights from this perspective of looking at it from our own self, because I didn't create the language. So knowing that already, then I know that I'm playing a game with myself. And it doesn't matter what language I use. You know, and when people say things like it's my thoughts, and so where do they come from?
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, what?
There are differences between alcohol and marijuana, for instance.
Oh, there is.
I've only taken one of them, but regulatory capture is the phrase that's most often used as sort of taking over the government in order to benefit a few. The basis, however, of what enables that is what Albert had described as the state being the functioning apparatus that takes over or serves I cited in addition to anarchy, both effectively, it carries the idea that some have these godlike attributes or bundle of rights. In a good monarchy, with a good king, that monarch understands that the basis of their kingdom is they're carrying out the responsibilities unto the citizens of the kingdom, and know that they fail or falter in protecting the people in their enjoyment of their what's the whole body of what's termed as natural rights, which I think is founded on the state of the then the legitimacy of the monarchy of their reigns over. However, there's just countless history and generation of people who fail living up to the their end of the contract, fulfilling their responsibilities, or making a mistake.
What's your concluding summary, Rami? In this, you have the right to express your right on from whence come rights, because this will be the last episode of the day. I'm not creating another one. I'm hungry.
I already made my conclusion, I think, in session 3. But I want to wish you both much love and respect and care.
My wife doesn't share that.
Hey, my wife doesn't share that. May all your delusions become untrue.
Ciao, guys. Ciao, Rami. Ciao, Jay.
Thank you, Rami. Thank you, Dominic. That was right. Oh, sorry, folks, but that was it. I'm done for the day.